My coworker reported my hijab as aggressive, then stole the promotion I'd worked years for, while her sister orchestrated a break-in at my childhood home, and my own mother watched from down the street. When I confronted her, she quietly admitted, "I just wanted nice things, a better life. I didn't mean for it to go this far." So I decided to show her just how far I was willing to take it. This isn't just a story about a bad boss. It's about a betrayal so deep it almost shattered everything I'd built, only to then throw my entire family into the crosshairs of something truly terrifying. You won't believe how this twisted saga unfolded. For 3 years, I poured my soul into that marketing firm, crushing every campaign, racking up glowing reviews. I was on top of my game. Then Gladys showed up 6 months after me. All smiles and, "Oh, I love your hijab. Where did you get it?" energy. Looking back, that should have been my first red flag. It started subtly, super specific questions about my projects, like she was studying for an exam about my work. Then, the secret meetings with our supervisor began. I told myself I was being paranoid, that maybe it was normal. But it wasn't. One afternoon, as we all sat eating our sad desk salads, this woman looks me dead in the eye and says, "Some people's religious displays might be affecting team cohesion." I swear, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. My hijab had never been an issue at that company. Never. And suddenly, I was a walking disruption. That's when I really started seeing things. How she documented every time I left for prayer or took Eid off, marking it as unexpected absence in her little note. And you know what else I found out? She was having weekly lunches with the HR manager, waxing poetic about how culturally sensitive she was because she volunteered at a refugee center once a month. All while taking credit for my work, scheduling meetings she knew I couldn't attend, due to prayer, then presenting my strategies like she'd birthed them herself. So when I heard our CEO was visiting in 2 weeks, and through the office grapevine learned he was Muslim, a mischievous thought sparked in my head. Let me test this theory of mine. I started small, wearing my vibrant, colorful hijabs instead of my usual boring black ones. Nothing wild, just some jewel tones that made me feel like myself again. Then, I casually mentioned near Gladys that I was thinking about toning down for career advancement. Her eyes lit up like Eid morning. She immediately volunteered to help me be more professional, sending me articles about assimilation and corporate culture. All the while, she'd praise my work with backhanded compliments like, "You're so talented despite your challenges," as if being Muslim was a disability. Meanwhile, behind my back, she was telling HR she was concerned about religious extremism, because I prayed at work. The same prayers I'd been doing for 3 years. The week before the CEO visit, I decided to really push it. I wore my most beautiful hijabs, including this one with delicate gold threading my nani gave me before she passed. And Gladys? She lost her entire mind, started screaming about how I was sabotaging my career and making everyone uncomfortable. She actually filed a formal HR complaint about my aggressive religious displays. Can you imagine? Calling a piece of fabric aggressive? HR called me in asking me to consider team dynamics, while my actual excellent work performance sat there, untouched by their bizarre concerns. This woman then convinced our supervisor to let her lead the CEO presentation and conveniently scheduled every prep meeting during prayer times. She was even going around telling people I was fishing for a discrimination lawsuit. The day before the CEO arrived, I wore my most precious piece, a stunning turquoise and gold hijab, my nani's. Gladys exploded right there in the office, demanding HR remove me immediately because I was making a statement. They actually suggested I work from home during the visit to avoid issues, and my spineless supervisor agreed. That night, I sat with all my evidence. The recordings I'd been making, which, yes, are legal in my state, where she said things like, her kind always plays the victim, and she should go back where hijabs are normal. Plus, emails explicitly stating my religion made her uncomfortable. I also found out she'd been gunning for the same promotion as me, telling management I'd probably leave soon for family reasons. Because, us Muslim women can't possibly want careers, right? The next morning, I showed up early in my best blazer and that same turquoise hijab. I was setting up in the conference room like I belonged there, because I do. When Mr. Ahmad, the CEO, walked in, he saw my hijab, and a warm smile spread across his face. He gave me salams in Arabic. Gladys, who had no clue he was Muslim, immediately interrupted, saying I was supposed to be home because of my displays. He asked her, "What displays?" And she went on this whole rant about aggressive religious expression and how I refused to assimilate, all the while thinking she'd found an ally. I calmly showed him everything. My performance reviews next to her ridiculous complaints. Afterward, other employees started speaking up, sharing their own experiences with Gladys. When I played the recording where she said, "I don't care how good her work is. Her type doesn't belong in leadership," you could have heard a pin drop. Long story short, Gladys was escorted out by security that day. The HR manager got suspended and they launched a full investigation, discovering Gladys had been sabotaging anyone she saw as competition. I thought everything was over. 3 months later, we got a transfer named Michelle. Amazing credentials, super professional. And 2 weeks in, someone mentioned her maiden name was the same as Gladys's. My heart just stopped. Here we go again. I clicked on an internal link she'd sent and my stomach dropped. It was a news article from 2 years ago about a workplace discrimination lawsuit that had been dismissed, with Gladys quoted as saying, "The accusations were baseless attempts to destroy her reputation." The plaintiff had mysteriously withdrawn their complaint after receiving threatening messages from unknown numbers. Michelle wasn't just her relative, she was her sister. And they'd done this before. The next morning, I walked into the office to find Michelle chatting with my team lead about restructuring our department for better efficiency. She smiled at me with the same fake warmth Gladys had perfected, complimenting my project management skills while subtly suggesting I might be happier in a less client-facing role. I recorded everything on my phone, learning from last time. Within days, Michelle started her campaign. She scheduled mandatory team meetings during prayer times, claiming they were the only slots available. When I requested accommodation, she documented it as inflexibility. She began copying herself on all my client emails, inserting herself into conversations with comments like, "Just ensuring cultural sensitivity in our communications." My clients, who'd worked with me for years, started asking why someone needed to monitor our interactions. I watched her work the office like Gladys had, but smarter. Instead of obvious discrimination, she used coded language about professional, presence, and executive readiness. She volunteered to mentor me, sending daily emails about communication styles and appearance standards that never mentioned religion directly, but included links to articles about fitting in and corporate image. The breaking point came when she reassigned my biggest account to herself, claiming the client had requested someone who could meet them for drinks after work, knowing I don't drink. When I protested, she produced an email from the client that looked suspicious. I called the client directly and they were confused, saying they'd never sent any email and were perfectly happy with me. That's when I realized Michelle had access to our email system in ways she shouldn't. I started documenting everything. But this time, I wasn't alone. 3 other employees came to me privately, sharing their own experiences. Jonathan from accounting said she'd been questioning his medical leave for his chronic illness. Alexander from design mentioned Michelle had been making comments about her pregnancy, suggesting she wouldn't return after maternity leave. Nathan from IT, who'd recently come out, said she'd been asking invasive questions about his lifestyle choices. We formed an unofficial support group, meeting at a coffee shop near the office to compare notes. The pattern was clear. Michelle was systematically targeting anyone she saw as different or vulnerable, using her position to document perceived weaknesses while positioning herself as indispensable to upper management. I started digging deeper into her background and found something interesting. She'd left her last 3 jobs after less than a year, always with glowing recommendations but no explanation for the quick departures. A LinkedIn search showed several former colleagues from those companies had also left around the same time. When I reached out to one, they were hesitant to talk but finally admitted there had been issues with workplace culture that were never properly addressed. Michelle escalated her tactics when she realized I wasn't backing down. She started showing up to my client meetings uninvited, interrupting my presentations to add context, and questioning my strategies in front of everyone. She filed reports about my aggressive responses when I pushed back, painting herself as trying to help while I was being difficult. The situation exploded when our biggest client was coming for a quarterly review. Michelle scheduled the presentation during Juma prayer, knowing it was the one prayer I couldn't reschedule. When I asked to move it, she sent a department-wide email about religious accommodations affecting business priorities and suggested I choose between my career and my faith. But she'd made a mistake. The client's CEO was copied on that email, and he was furious. He called our company president directly, saying he didn't want to work with a firm that treated employees this way. Suddenly, upper management was very interested in what had been happening in our department. The investigation that followed was different from the one with Gladys. This time, they brought in an external firm and they interviewed everyone. The IT department discovered Michelle had been using a manager's login to access and modify emails. They found dozens of altered communications, not just about me, but about several employees she'd targeted. What really sealed her fate was when They discovered she'd been sharing confidential client information with her sister Gladys, who was now working for a competitor. The emails between them discussed strategies to destabilize our department so Gladys could poach our clients. They'd done this at multiple companies, with one sister infiltrating, while the other waited to benefit from the chaos. The day Michelle was terminated, she tried one last manipulation. She came to my desk crying, saying she was just trying to survive in a tough industry and that I'd ruined her life. Several colleagues heard her threat that I'd regret this and that she had connections everywhere. Security escorted her out while she screamed about discrimination and lawsuits. But the story didn't end there. 2 weeks later, I started getting calls from recruiters about amazing job opportunities that seemed too good to be true. When I investigated, they all traced back to companies where either Michelle or Gladys had connections. They were trying to get me to leave my job voluntarily. I also noticed someone had been trying to access my LinkedIn and professional social media accounts. Then came the anonymous letters to our clients, claiming I was unstable and had created a hostile work environment. Fortunately, after everything that had happened, our legal department was taking this seriously. They traced the IP addresses to a coffee shop where security footage showed Michelle's husband sending the emails. The company filed restraining orders against both sisters and pursued legal action for corporate espionage and defamation. During the proceedings, it came out that they'd done this at 5 different companies over 7 years, always targeting minorities and vulnerable employees, always managing to avoid consequences. Until now. My colleagues and I testified about our experiences, and for the first time, their pattern of behavior was fully exposed. Other former victims came forward, sharing their stories of careers derailed and reputations damaged. The case became a wake-up call for our industry about the need for better protections against systematic workplace harassment. 6 months later, I was promoted to the position Michelle had been trying to steal. Our department implemented new policies about accommodation requests and email access. The company partnered with several diversity organizations to ensure what happened to us wouldn't happen again. I still wear my colorful hijabs to work every day, including the turquoise and gold one for my nanny. Sometimes new employees ask about my story, and I tell them that standing up for yourself isn't just about protecting your own rights. It's about making the workplace safer for everyone who comes after you. The last I heard, both sisters were facing criminal charges for corporate espionage, and several companies were pursuing civil suits. Their reputation in our industry was destroyed, and they'd finally faced consequences for years of predatory behavior. But I know there are others out there like them, which is why I share the story. Because sometimes the biggest threat to your career isn't your performance or your identity. It's the person sitting next to you with a smile and a hidden agenda. I stared at the screen, processing everything I just read. The systematic harassment, the corporate espionage, the way these sisters had destroyed careers for years. My hands were shaking as I closed the laptop. Before I could even process what I'd learned, my phone buzzed with a text from my dad. "Come home now, don't stop anymore." The urgency in those 5 words made my blood run cold. I grabbed my things and practically ran to my car, my mind racing through possibilities. Had Michelle or Gladys somehow found our address? Were they targeting my family now? When I pulled into our driveway 20 minutes later, I noticed my dad's truck parked at an odd angle, like he'd rushed home too. The front door was already opening as I got out of the car, and my dad's face told me everything I needed to know. Something was very wrong. "Your mother called," he said quietly, ushering me inside. "She's in trouble with Jerry again." My stomach dropped. Jerry. My mother's boyfriend of 2 years, who'd slowly isolated her from our family. The man who convinced her we were holding her back, that she deserved better than us. We hadn't heard from her in 6 months, not since she'd chosen him over attending my sister's high school graduation. "What kind of trouble?" I asked, though part of me already knew. Jerry had always given me bad vibes. The way he'd size up our house during their visits, asking weird questions about my dad's tool collection and whether we had a safe. My dad ran his hand through his graying hair. "She says he owes money to some people, bad people, and now they're threatening her too." My younger sister Sarah came down the stairs, still in her college sweatshirt. At 19, she'd grown up fast after Mom left, but I could see the worry in her eyes. "Is Mom okay?" "I don't know," Dad admitted. She was crying, could barely get the words out. Said Jerry told these people we have money hidden somewhere, that I've been hoarding cash for my contracting business. I felt anger rise in my chest. My dad was the most honest man I knew. Every cent he earned went to keeping our family afloat, especially after Mom left. The idea that we had some secret stash was laughable, if it wasn't so dangerous. We need to call the police, I said, reaching for my phone. Dad shook his head. She begged me not to. Said Jerry has connections, that calling the cops would make things worse. Dad, that's exactly why we should. The sound of car doors slamming outside cut me off. Through the front window, I saw two men getting out of a black SUV. They weren't trying to hide their presence, walking up our driveway like they owned the place. Sarah, go to the basement, Dad said quietly. Take your sister. Dad, no. Now! His voice was firm, but I could hear the fear underneath. I'm not going to shoot anyone and risk prison at my age. Just go. Sarah grabbed my hand, and we rushed to the basement door. As we descended the stairs, I heard the doorbell ring, followed immediately by pounding. They weren't waiting for an invitation. The basement was unfinished, just concrete walls and exposed pipes. We huddled behind the old water heater, Sarah gripping my hand so tight it hurt. Above us, I heard my dad's voice trying to sound calm. Can I help you, gentlemen? Jerry sent us, a gruff voice replied. You got something that belongs to him? I don't know any Jerry. My dad lied. There was a laugh. Ugly. Annoying. Come on, old man. Your ex-wife told us all about you. About the cash you got hidden away. Make this easy on yourself. There's no money, Dad insisted. I'm a contractor. Look around. Does this look like the house of someone with hidden cash? The footsteps above us grew louder. Multiple sets now. They were inside. Sarah pressed closer to me, and I wrapped my arm around her, trying to control my own breathing. We're going to look around, the voice said. You can make this easy or hard. The next few minutes felt like hours. We heard furniture being moved, doors being yanked open, the crash of something breaking. They were systematic, thorough. I thought about the laptop upstairs with all my work files, my grandmother's jewelry in my room, Dad's tools in the garage, a lifetime of honest work about to be ransacked by criminals. The basement door opened. Check downstairs too, someone called. Sarah's breathing quickened. I pressed my finger to my lips, pulling her deeper into the shadows. Heavy footsteps descended the stairs. A flashlight beam cut through the darkness, sweeping across the concrete floor. They found us in minutes. Well, the man said, his face hidden in shadow behind the flashlight. The daughters. Jerry mentioned you two. He was younger than I expected, maybe late 20s, with the kind of casual confidence that came from doing this regularly. His partner appeared behind him, older and mean-looking. Upstairs, the younger one ordered. Now we had no choice. As we climbed the stairs, I tried to memorize details. The younger one had a tattoo on his neck, some kind of bird. The older one walked with a slight limp. Details that might matter later if we survived this. The living room was a disaster. Couch cushions slashed open, pictures torn from walls, books scattered across the floor. My dad sat in his recliner, hands on his knees, looking older than I'd ever seen him. No hidden cash, the older intruder announced. Either he's got a hell of a hiding spot or Jerry's information is wrong. The younger one pulled out his phone. I watched him dial, my heart sinking as I realized what was happening. This wasn't random. This was orchestrated. Yeah, it's me, he said into the phone. No cash. What do you want us to do? There was a pause as he listened. His expression darkened. You sure about that? Another pause. All right, if that's what you want. He hung up and looked at his partner. Take whatever's valuable. Tools, jewelry, electronics. Jerry says to clear them out. That's everything I have for my work, my dad protested, standing up. I need those tools to make a living. The older man shoved him back into the chair. Should have thought of that before you hoarded cash from your ex's boyfriend. They worked quickly after that. Dad's entire tool collection accumulated over 30 years of construction work. My laptop with all my marketing portfolios, Sarah's college laptop, my grandmother's jewelry box, including pieces that had been in our family for generations. They even took the small TV from the kitchen. I memorized everything they took, burning it into my memory. The younger one noticed me watching and smirked. Smart girl, but Jerry says, if you call the cops, mommy dear pays the price. Understand? Before I could respond, there was a commotion outside. A car door slammed, followed by the sound of someone running up our driveway. The front door burst open, and there was my mother. She looked terrible, thinner than I remembered. Her clothes wrinkled, makeup smeared from crying. She took in the scene, us huddled together, the ransacked room, the men with their arms full of our belongings, and collapsed in the doorway. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. Jerry made me." "He dropped me off down the street to watch. I didn't know they'd take everything. He said they just wanted to scare you." The two men rushed past her without a word, carrying our lives out to their SUV. Mom crawled toward us on her knees, reaching for my dad. "Please, I didn't mean for this to happen. Jerry said if I helped, he'd forgive the money I owed him." "You owed him money?" Dad's voice was hollow. "What money, Linda?" I took some from his safe, just a little for groceries, but he said it was more with interest and I couldn't pay it back. And he said you had money hidden away from the divorce." "Get out!" Dad's voice was quiet but firm. "Get out of my house!" "Please, I have nowhere to go. Jerry kicked me out. He said I'm useless now that you didn't have the money. Please, I'm your wife." "Ex-wife," Sarah corrected coldly. "You chose Jerry, remember? You chose him over us." Mom turned to me, her eyes pleading. "Baby, please talk to your father. I made a mistake. I see that now. Jerry's not who I thought he was." I wanted to feel sympathy. This was my mother, the woman who raised me, who taught me to be strong. But all I felt was anger. "You brought criminals to our home. You let them rob us. You watched from down the street while they terrorized your daughters." "I didn't know." "Yes, you did." I stood up, helping Sarah to her feet. "You knew exactly what Jerry was. You just didn't care until it affected you." The sound of sirens in the distance made Mom's face go white. "You called the police. Jerry said if you called the police." "We didn't call anyone," Dad said. "Probably the neighbors. Hard to miss two men carrying tools out of a house in broad daylight." Mom scrambled to her feet. "I have to go. If Jerry finds out the police came..." She ran out the door, leaving us in our destroyed living room. 20 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up. 2 officers came to the door, looking bored already. "We got a call about a possible burglary," the older officer said, notepad in hand. Dad explained what happened, keeping his voice steady and factual. The officers exchanged glances when he mentioned Jerry's name. "Jerry Morrison? The younger?" officer asked. "Your ex-wife is dating Jerry Morrison?" "You know him?" I asked. The older officer shifted uncomfortably. "We're familiar with Mr. Morrison. Did you get a good look at the men who came here?" I described them in detail. The tattoo, the limp, their approximate ages. The officer wrote it all down, but I could see the resignation in his eyes. "We'll file a report," he said, "but without security footage or witnesses willing to testify." "What about my mom?" Sarah asked. "She admitted she was involved." "Your mother isn't here to make a statement," the officer pointed out. "And even if she was, domestic situations get complicated. Jerry Morrison has friends, people who make prosecuting these cases difficult." I understood what he wasn't saying. Mom had been right about Jerry's connections. These officers were taking a report they knew would go nowhere. After they left, we sat in our ruined living room in silence. Everything of value was gone. Dad's livelihood, our computers with schoolwork and job files, family heirlooms that couldn't be replaced. "What do we do now?" Sarah asked quietly. Dad stood up suddenly, looking determined. "We protect ourselves, and we document everything. If the police won't help, we'll have to be smart about this." That night, none of us slept well. I kept replaying the day's events, thinking about what we could have done differently. Should we have fought back? Called the police immediately? But Dad was right. He was too old to risk a confrontation that could have turned violent, and Jerry's connections meant the legal system might not protect us. The next morning, I woke to find Dad already up, making calls. He was reaching out to contractor friends, trying to borrow tools so he could keep working. The pride in his voice as he explained our situation broke my heart. This man, who'd never asked for anything, was now begging for help because of my mother's choices. Sarah was at the kitchen table with a borrowed laptop from her friend, trying to recreate her school assignments. I used my phone to email clients, explaining that technical difficulties might delay my deliverables. The professional reputation I'd built was taking hits because of Jerry and my mother. Around noon, there was a knock at the door. We all froze. Dad peered through the peephole and relaxed slightly. "It's Tom from next door," he said, opening the door. Tom was a retired police detective who'd lived next door for 15 years. He came in carrying a box. "I saw what happened yesterday," he said, setting the box on our kitchen counter. "Security camera caught some of it. Thought you might want this. Inside was a USB drive and printouts of still images from his security footage, clear shots of the two men, their vehicle, even a partial license plate. Tom, this is... I know Jerry Morrison, Tom interrupted. Worked cases involving him before I retired. He's smart. Stays just inside the law, but he's not untouchable. He looked at each of us. Didn't hear this from me, but there's a detective in the county sheriff's office, Maria Santos. She's been building a case against Morrison for years. This might be what she needs. After Tom left, I researched Detective Santos online. She had a reputation for taking on difficult cases, particularly those involving organized theft rings. But contacting her would mean going against Jerry's threats about Mom. We have to do it, Sarah said, reading over my shoulder. Mom made her choice. We can't let them get away with this. Dad was quiet for a long moment. Despite everything, he still loved Mom. But finally he nodded. Make the call. I dialed the sheriff's office and asked for Detective Santos. When I explained who I was and mentioned Jerry Morrison's name, she immediately agreed to meet with us. We met at a small diner outside town the next day. Detective Santos was younger than I expected, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She listened to our story without interrupting, occasionally making notes. Your mother is Linda Walsh? She asked when we finished. I've been trying to talk to her for months. She's been seen with Morrison at several locations that were later burglarized. She's involved in other robberies? Sarah asked, shocked. We suspect she cases houses for him, befriends people, learns about their valuables, their schedules, but we've never been able to prove it. I felt sick. How many other families had gone through what we did? How many other daughters had watched their inheritance disappear because my mother smiled at the wrong person? The security footage helps, Detective Santos continued. But I need more. Would you be willing to wear a wire? Try to get your mother to admit her involvement? She won't talk to us, Dad said. She knows we're angry. Anger fades, the detective said, especially a mother's guilt. Give it a few days and I guarantee she'll reach out. They always do. She was right. 3 days later, Mom called my phone. I let it go to voicemail. Baby, it's Mom. I know you're angry, but please, I need help. Jerry found out about the police report. He's furious. I'm scared. Please, I just need somewhere to stay for a few nights, just until things calm down. Please. I played the message for Detective Santos. Perfect, she said. Call her back. I arranged to meet somewhere public. We'll wire you up and have backup nearby. My hands shook as I returned Mom's call. She answered on the first ring. Oh, thank God, she breathed. I was so worried you wouldn't call back. Mom, I forced myself to sound conflicted. I'm still angry, but you're my mother. Where are you? I'm at the motel on Route 9, the Blue Moon. Jerry kicked me out after the police showed up at his place. He thinks I set him up. I can meet you at the coffee shop on Main Street, I offered. In an hour. Yes, anything. Thank you, baby. I knew you'd understand. An hour later, I sat in the coffee shop with a wire taped to my chest and Detective Santos parked across the street. Mom arrived 15 minutes late, looking even worse than before. Her eye was bruised, poorly hidden under makeup. Did Jerry do that? I asked, genuine concern breaking through my anger. She touched her face self-consciously. It was an accident. He was upset about the police. I shouldn't have gotten in his way. Mom, this isn't okay. You need to get away from him. I know. She reached across the table for my hands. I've made so many mistakes, but I can fix this. I know where Jerry keeps his records. All the houses, all the people he's robbed. I could get them for you. My heart raced. This is exactly what Detective Santos needed. Why would you do that? Because I owe you. All of you. And because... She lowered her voice. I know things about Jerry's connections in the police. About how he picks his targets. I helped him. God forgive me. I helped him rob good people. How many? I asked quietly. 12 houses in the last year. Maybe more. He'd send me to make friends, join their book clubs or volunteer groups. I'd learn about their valuables, their schedules. Then Jerry would send his guys. Tears ran down her cheeks. I told myself they were rich. They could afford it. But they weren't. They were just regular people like us. We weren't rich, Mom. Dad's tools were everything. Sarah might have to drop out of college. I know. And I'm sorry, but I can make it right. Jerry's planning another job tomorrow night. A family on Elm Street, the Johnsons. I met them at church. They're good people. Their daughter just got married, and they have all these wedding gifts stored in their garage. I forced myself to stay calm. We should warn them. No! Mom grabbed my hands tighter. Jerry would know it was me. But if I can get his records, all of them, the police could stop them for good. Would you help me? Help you how? I need somewhere to stay tonight. Jerry's guys are watching the motel. But if I could stay with you just one night, I could go to his house tomorrow when he's meeting with his crew. I know where he hides everything. This was beyond what Detective Santos had discussed. I tried to think what to say. Mom, that sounds dangerous. Less dangerous than doing nothing. He's escalating. The Morrison job was supposed to be simple, just scare you into paying. But when there was no money, he got angry. Next time someone can't pay, someone might get hurt. The Morrison job? I looked confused. That's what Jerry called it, the Morrison job, your house. Our name is Walsh, Mom. Your married name was Walsh. Her face went pale. I must have mixed it up. I've been so stressed. But I saw the truth in her eyes. She'd been involved in so many robberies, she couldn't keep the name straight anymore. We were just another job to her. I should go, I said, standing up. Wait, please, let me stay with you just one night. I'll get Jerry's records and then I'll disappear. You'll never have to see me again. I need to think about it. There's no time. The Johnsons is tomorrow night. Then go to the police yourself, I snapped. Tell them what you know. I can't. Jerry has photos, videos of me inside people's houses. He'll say I was the mastermind, that he was just the muscle. With his connections, who do you think they'll believe? I left her there, crying into her coffee. Outside, I climbed into Detective Santos's unmarked car. Outstanding, she said, reviewing the recording. We've got her admitting to 12 burglaries. Jerry's planning another one, and she knows where evidence is hidden. What about the Johnsons? We'll have units there tomorrow night, she said. But I want those records she mentioned. Think she'll actually try to get them? Not without help, I admitted. She's too scared of Jerry. Detective Santos was quiet for a moment. What if we gave her that help? Controlled circumstances, backup in place. We could get the evidence and keep her safe. You want to use my mother as bait? I want to stop Jerry Morrison before he hurts anyone else. Your mother's already in danger. This might be her only chance to get out safely. That evening, I sat with Dad and Sarah explaining what had happened. The recording, the planned robbery, Detective Santos's proposal. Absolutely not, Dad said immediately. Your mother made her choices. We're not risking anyone else to save her from them. But what about the Johnsons? Sarah asked. And all the other families he might target. That's the police's job, not ours. But I could see him wavering. Despite everything, he didn't want Mom to get hurt, and the thought of other families going through what we did clearly bothered him. My phone buzzed. Another voicemail from Mom. They found me at the coffee shop. Jerry's guys. I ran, but they saw my car. I'm hiding at the library, but they're closing soon. Please, I have nowhere else to go. I'm so sorry for everything. I just wanted nice things, a better life. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Please, don't let them hurt me. Dad closed his eyes. Call Detective Santos, tell her we'll help. The plan was simple. Mom would come to our house that night. Detective Santos's team would watch for Jerry's men. In the morning, Mom would go to Jerry's house with a wire and backup, retrieve the evidence, and get out. Simple plans, of course, are the ones that usually go wrong. Mom arrived at our house after dark, constantly checking over her shoulder. We let her in quickly, Detective Santos's team confirming no one had followed her. Thank you, she whispered, hugging me tight. I know I don't deserve this. No, Sarah said coldly. You don't. We set Mom up in the guest room, the same room she'd abandoned when she left us for Jerry. She sat on the bed, looking small and lost. I used to tuck you into this bed when you were little, she told Sarah. Remember? You were scared of thunderstorms. I remember you leaving, Sarah replied. I remember you choosing Jerry over your daughters. Mom flinched. I thought he loved me. He made me feel special, important. Your father? She glanced at Dad. We've been married so long. Jerry was exciting, dangerous. I was an idiot. You were selfish, I corrected. And now other people are paying for it. That night, I barely slept. Every car that passed made me tense, but Jerry's men never showed. Either they hadn't tracked Mom here, or they were waiting for a better opportunity. In the morning, Detective Santos arrived early to wire Mom up. Her hands shook as they attached the equipment. Jerry keeps everything in a safe in his home office, Mom explained. Client lists, payment records, even videos from the robberies. He likes to watch them sometimes, critique his guy's performance. Do you know the combination? Detective Santos asked. It's his birthday, 071582. You sure he'll be gone? Thursday mornings, he meets with his crew at the warehouse, plans the week's jobs. He's never missed one. Detective Santos had units ready to move in if anything went wrong. Mom would go in, get to the safe, grab everything she could, and get out. 15 minutes maximum. What if he changed the combination? Mom asked. After the police report, then you leave immediately, Detective Santos said firmly. No heroics. Your safety is the priority. Mom laughed bitterly. Since when has my safety been anyone's priority? Since you became our witness, the detective replied. Do this right and we can protect you. New identity. Fresh start somewhere Jerry will never find you. I saw hope flicker in Mom's eyes, a chance to escape the mess she'd created. We watched from Detective Santos's van as Mom drove to Jerry's house. It was a nice place in a good neighborhood, probably paid for with stolen goods. Subject is approaching the house, an officer reported over the radio. No vehicles in the driveway. Mom parked and walked to the front door using her key to enter. We could hear her breathing through the wire, quick and nervous. I'm inside, she whispered, going to the office. The next few minutes felt like hours. We heard her footsteps, a door opening, the beep of the safe keypad. It worked, she breathed. Oh my God, there's so much here. Just grab what you can and get out, Detective Santos instructed through her earpiece. Wait, there's something else. Photos of... Oh no, Linda. What is it? He has surveillance photos of my family. Recent ones. Sarah at college, my ex-husband at job sites. He's been watching them. My blood ran cold. Jerry had been keeping tabs on us, even before the robbery. There's a planning board, Mom continued, with addresses, schedules. He's not just robbing houses. He's running some kind of... I don't know. It's all connected somehow. Linda, you need to leave now. Just let me... The sound of a door slamming made us all freeze. Who's there? Jerry's voice angry and suspicious. Linda, is that you? He's supposed to be at the warehouse, Detective Santos said urgently. All units, move in now. But Mom was already talking, her voice artificially bright. Hi, baby. I came to get my things. You said I could. I said no such thing. We heard footsteps approaching. What are you doing in my office? I was just... The sound of impact. Mom crying out. You're wearing a wire, you stupid woman. You brought the cops to my house. Units are 30 seconds out, someone reported. Jerry, please. I just wanted my clothes. Another impact. Mom screaming. The sound of things breaking. I gave you everything. Jerry's voice was rage-filled. Took you out of that pathetic life, and this is how you repay me? We heard Mom sobbing, begging, the sound of something heavy falling, then silence except for Mom's labored breathing. Units on scene! The radio crackled. Making entry! The next few minutes were chaos over the radio. Officers securing the scene, calling for medical, Jerry in custody, cursing and threatening, Mom being loaded into an ambulance. At the hospital, we waited for news. Mom had a concussion, broken ribs, a fractured wrist, but she was alive. And the evidence she'd found was more than anyone expected. Jerry Morrison wasn't just running a burglary ring, Detective Santos explained. He was gathering information on families, building profiles, some for robbery, some for identity theft, some for other purposes. Other purposes? Dad asked. Blackmail, extortion. He had dirt on half the prominent families in town, affair, evidence, financial secrets, even staged compromising photos. The burglaries were just the tip. Jerry's arrest made the local news. Over the next weeks, more victims came forward. Families who'd been robbed, blackmailed, threatened. The investigation expanded, reaching into city government and the police department. Several officers were suspended pending investigation of their connections to Morrison. Mom testified from her hospital bed, providing details about dozens of crimes. In exchange, she got witness protection and a chance to start over. Before she left, she asked to see us one last time. She looked older, fragile in her hospital gown. The confident woman who'd walked out on us was gone, replaced by someone who'd learned hard truths too late. I know sorry isn't enough. She said. I destroyed our family for a man who saw me as just another tool to use. I can't undo that. No, Dad agreed. You can't. But maybe my testimony can help other families get justice. It's the only good thing I can do now. Sarah stood by the window, not looking at Mom. Are we safe from Jerry's people? Detective Santos says yes. With Jerry locked up and his organization dismantled, there's no one left to come after you. Mom reached out tentatively toward Sarah. I'm so sorry, baby, for everything. Sarah finally turned. I'm not your baby anymore. You gave that up when you chose him over us. Mom's hand dropped. I know. I wanted you to know that I loved you. I just loved myself more. And that's something I'll have to live with. We left her there, waiting for the marshals who would take her to her new life. I never asked where she went. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. The insurance covered some of our losses, though nothing could replace the sentimental items. Dad slowly rebuilt his tool collection, taking jobs with borrowed equipment until he could afford his own again. Sarah stayed in college working extra hours to cover what her laptop loss had cost her. I returned to my marketing work, grateful that my clients had been understanding about the delays. The turquoise and gold hijab was gone forever, but I found another at a vintage shop that reminded me of my Nani. Not the same, but a way to honor her memory while moving forward. 6 months after Jerry's arrest, Detective Santos called with an update. The investigation had led to dozens of arrests, a complete overhaul of local police corruption, and new protocols for protecting burglary victims. Jerry got 25 years, no possibility of parole. Your family's courage made this possible, she told me. I know it came at a terrible cost, but you helped save a lot of people from going through what you did. It was small comfort, but comfort nonetheless. We'd survived betrayal from someone who should have protected us. We stood up to criminals when the system failed us, and we'd stayed together when everything tried to tear us apart. Tom from Next. Daughter still checks on us regularly. He installed new security cameras for free, saying neighbors look out for each other. The community rallied around us in ways Mom never understood when she was chasing Jerry's false promises of a better life. Sometimes I think about her, wherever she is with her new identity. Does she work in another office, joining book clubs and volunteer groups? Or has she learned to be alone with the choices she made? I hope she's found peace, even if she'll never find forgiveness from us. Dad's dating again, a nice woman from his contractors association who understands why he's cautious about trust. Sarah's finishing her degree, planning to go to law school, to help families failed by the system. And me? I'm still at my marketing firm, wearing my colorful hijabs, building the career Mom thought I should sacrifice. The morning after we'd said goodbye to Mom at the hospital, I found Dad in the garage, organizing his new tools, each one carefully placed, labeled, treated with respect. Building something from nothing, the way he'd always done. You okay? I asked. He looked up, managed a small smile. I will be. We all will be. That's what we do, right? We survive. We rebuild. We keep going. Even after someone we loved betrayed us. Especially then, he said, because the betrayal doesn't define us. How we respond to it does. The next few weeks became a twisted game of cat and mouse. Jerry's arrest hadn't ended anything. It had only made things worse. His crew was still out there, and they blamed us for their boss going down. The threatening phone calls started 3 days after Mom left with the marshals. Dad changed our locks and installed deadbolts, but we all knew it was just theater. These weren't the kind of people who let locked doors stop them. Sarah started carrying pepper spray, and I downloaded one of those safety apps that alerts your contacts if you don't check in. Small gestures against a big threat. The first real move came when Dad showed up at a job site to find his borrowed tools stolen from his truck. The site supervisor said 2 guys had shown up claiming to be from Dad's company, said he'd sent them to pick up equipment. By the time anyone realized something was wrong, they were gone. No cameras, no witnesses. Willing to talk. They're trying to starve us out, Dad said that night, staring at his empty hands. Can't work without tools, can't buy tools without work. I watched him make more calls, pride crumbling with each conversation. His contractor friends were getting nervous. Word had spread about Jerry's crew targeting us, and nobody wanted to risk their own equipment. Can't say I blamed them. Sarah's college situation deteriorated next. Someone had called the financial aid office claiming to be Dad, saying we'd come into money and no longer needed assistance. By the time she discovered what happened, she'd been dropped from her work-study program. The office said they'd investigate, but But bureaucracy moves slowly when you're not the one suffering. Detective Santos checked in regularly, but her hands were tied. Jerry's crew was careful. Nothing traceable back to them. She suggested we consider relocating temporarily, but with what money? Everything we had was going toward keeping the house. And Sarah in school. The breaking point came on a Thursday afternoon. I was at a client meeting when my phone exploded with texts from Sarah. Someone had broken into the house while Dad was at a job interview. They hadn't taken anything, just moved things around. Family photos turned backward. Mom's old coffee mug placed in the center of the kitchen table. Jerry's business card tucked under Sarah's pillow. The message was clear. We can get to you whenever we want. I left the meeting early, my client's confused expression barely registering. When I got home, I found Dad and Sarah in the living room with Tom from next door. He'd seen a van parked outside our house and called it in, but it was gone before anyone arrived. This ends now, Tom said, his retired detective instincts fully engaged. They're escalating because they think you're alone. Time to show them you're not. Over the next hour, Tom made calls to people I didn't know he knew. Former colleagues, neighborhood watch members, other contractors who'd been burned by Jerry's crew over the years. By evening, we had a plan that didn't involve running or hiding. The Contractors Association Dad belonged to had been watching Jerry's operation for years, documenting losses, but never having enough for legal action. Now, with Jerry locked up and his crew scrambling, they saw an opportunity. 15 contractors had equipment stolen or jobs sabotaged by Morrison's people. Together, they had resources we didn't. Tom coordinated with Detective Santos while staying just inside legal boundaries. The contractors started sharing information about suspicious job site visitors. The neighborhood watch increased patrols. Sarah's college friends created a safety network, walking her between classes. I started working from home, using the neighbor's Wi-Fi after ours was mysteriously disconnected. The crew made their next move 5 days later. Dad had finally landed a small job helping renovate a local church. The contractor who hired him was one of the few willing to risk Jerry's crew's attention. Dad was installing drywall when 3 men showed up. But this time, he wasn't alone. 4 other contractors were there, all victims of Jerry's operation. When the men demanded Dad leave the job site, they found themselves outnumbered by people who'd had enough. No violence, just a clear message that the intimidation stops here. One of them made a phone call, angry gestures indicating the conversation wasn't going well. They left, but not before one spat at Dad's feet and said something about his whore ex-wife. Dad's hands clenched, but he kept working. The other contractors stayed until the job was done. That night, Detective Santos called with interesting news. One of Jerry's crew had been arrested on an unrelated charge, hammered driving, and was looking to make a deal. He'd give up the others in exchange for leniency. The walls were closing in. Sarah was walking to her car after class when she noticed someone following her. Instead of panicking, she followed the protocol we'd established. She ducked into the campus security office, called me, and waited. Campus security reviewed footage, showing the same man had been watching her for 3 days. They couldn't arrest him for walking on public property, but they could and did ban him from campus. The man's photo circulated among the Contractors Association. Within hours, he was identified as Marcus Webb, one of Jerry's enforcers, with a record for assault and extortion. Detective Santos now had a name and a pattern. The crew's desperation showed in their next move. They went after Tom, slashing his tires and leaving a note. "Mind your own business, old man." Tom's response was to install more cameras and share the footage with every neighbor on the block. The silver sedan they used was caught from 3 different angles. Our makeshift support network grew stronger. The church where Dad had worked offered us their community hall for meetings. Other families who had been targeted by Jerry came forward, sharing their stories and resources. We weren't alone anymore, and Jerry's crew was learning that. I was reviewing security footage with Tom when my phone rang. Unknown number, but I answered anyway. "Is this Linda's daughter?" a gravelly voice asked. My heart stopped. "Who is this?" I asked, putting it on speaker so Tom could hear. "Just friendly advice. Jerry has friends, good friends, the kind who remember favors. And you're costing us money." "Then maybe you should find a new line of work," I suggested. He laughed. "Ugly and short. Or maybe we wait. People forget. Neighbors stop watching. Contractors get comfortable. And then we remind you why Jerry ran this town for so long." The line went dead. Tom was already on his phone with Detective Santos. But we both knew threats weren't enough for arrests. 2 nights later, the crew made what would be their final mistake. They targeted the wrong house, specifically the home of Judge Patricia Hernandez, whose daughter went to school with Sarah. They didn't know she was a judge, just saw an expensive house with nice cars. What they also didn't know was that Judge Hernandez had been following our situation through Sarah. She quietly arranged for increased police patrols in our neighborhood and had been pushing the prosecutor's office to take Jerry's remaining crew seriously. When two men tried to break into her garage at 2 a.m., they triggered not just alarms, but a coordinated police response. Both were arrested on the spot, and one was Marcus Webb. Faced with burglary charges on a judge's home, he flipped immediately. The dominoes fell fast after that. Webb gave up the entire crew in exchange for a plea deal. Raids happened simultaneously across the city. 7 arrests, including the man who'd called me with threats. Detective Santos called me at 6 a.m. with the news. "It's over," she said. "We got them all. Webb's testimony, plus what we found in the raids, will put them away for years." But it wasn't quite over. 2 weeks later, during the arraignments, one of Jerry's lawyers approached Dad outside the courthouse. He had an envelope, papers showing that some of our stolen items had been recovered in the raids. Not everything, but Dad's main toolbox, some of Sarah's textbooks, and surprisingly, my grandmother's jewelry box. "Jerry wants you to know he had nothing to do with the continued harassment," the lawyer said. "His crew went rogue after his arrest." Dad just looked at him. "Jerry destroyed my family. Whether he ordered this or not doesn't matter." The lawyer shrugged and walked away. We collected our recovered items from evidence, each piece a small victory. The jewelry box still had most of its contents, including my grandmother's wedding ring. Dad's tools were scratched but functional. Sarah hugged her recovered laptop like an old friend. The Contractors Association came through in ways we never expected. They established an emergency fund for members affected by crime, and Dad qualified. Not a fortune, but enough to properly replace his essential tools. Several contractors offered him steady subcontracting work, wanting to help him rebuild. Sarah's college reinstated her financial aid after the full story came out. Judge Hernandez wrote a letter on her behalf explaining the extraordinary circumstances. The work-study position was gone, but she got a better one in the campus security office, helping develop safety protocols for students dealing with off-campus threats. I went back to working from the office, no longer looking over my shoulder. My clients had been patient through the disruption, and I threw myself into making it up to them. The marketing firm even implemented new security measures, having learned from my experience with the sisters and then the situation. Tom became more than just a neighbor. He became family. Sunday dinners at his house, sharing stories from his detective days, teaching Sarah self-defense moves in his garage. He'd lost his own family years ago, and we'd lost Mom. Sometimes broken. Pieces fit together in unexpected ways. 3 months after the arrest, Detective Santos stopped by with a final update. The crew members had all taken plea deals rather than face trial. Sentences ranged from 5 to 15 years depending on their level of involvement. Jerry's operation was officially dismantled. His assets seized to pay restitution to victims. "There's a fund being set up," she explained. "Not just for your family, but for everyone Jerry hurt over the years. It won't make you whole, but it's something." We filed our claim, documenting everything we'd lost. The estimated restitution wouldn't come close to covering it all, but it would help. More importantly, it meant Jerry's crimes were officially recognized, recorded, part of the public record. Dad used some of the Contractor Association funds to take courses in modern construction techniques. At 55, he was learning new skills, adapting to changes in the industry. His reputation as someone who'd stood up to Jerry's crew actually helped. Clients saw him as trustworthy, someone who wouldn't be intimidated. Sarah changed her major to criminal justice with a focus on victim advocacy. Her experience had shown her how vulnerable people become when systems fail them. She volunteered with a local organization that helped crime victims navigate the legal system, turning our pain into purpose. The house felt different now, safer, but also marked by what had happened. We repainted, rearranged furniture, tried to erase the memory of that day. But some things can't be painted over. The basement where Sarah and I had hidden became her study room. She said it helped her remember that fear could be conquered. One evening, while sorting through recovered items, I found a photo that must have fallen out of the jewelry box. It was Mom and Dad on their wedding day, both so young and hopeful. Sarah wanted to throw it away, but Dad stopped her. "She's still your mother," he said quietly. What she did was wrong, but erasing her doesn't change that. We kept the photo tucked away in a drawer, not displayed but not destroyed either. Some things are too complicated for simple solutions. The local news did a small story about Jerry's crew being sentenced, mentioning our family among the victims. We declined to be interviewed. We'd had enough attention. Let someone else be the face of survival. We just wanted to move forward. 6 months after everything ended, I was working late when my phone buzzed. Unknown number, but I answered out of habit. "Is this Linda's daughter?" a woman's voice asked. My heart stopped. "Who is this?" "I'm calling from Mercy General Hospital in Columbus. Your mother listed you as her emergency contact. She's been in an accident." I sat there, phone in hand, weighing 18 months of anger against 25 years of being her daughter. In the end, I wrote down the hospital information and said I'd have to check my schedule. I never made that drive. Some bridges, once, burned, can't be rebuilt. But I did call the hospital, confirmed she was stable, and gave them Dad's sister's number in Ohio. Let her family help her. We'd done enough.